Tens of thousands of public sector workers are taking part in a 24-hour strike over changes to pensions. Union leaders say that up to 400,000 workers walked off the job, but that figure is disputed by the government. The Cabinet Office says just over 100,000 civil servants took action. Those out included NHS workers, lecturers, Ministry of Defence workers and members of the Royal Fleet Auxiliary. 4,500 immigration and customs officers joined the walkout, and the Prison Officers Association says that 80% of its members took part in unofficial action. Huge numbers of off-duty police officers took to the streets of Westminster today to protest against what they call criminal cuts of 20% in police budgets. The Police Federation of England and Wales said the march showed officers' anger over cuts to pay, pensions and the loss of 16,000 jobs, and opposition to what it called the prospect of mass privatisation of policing. Our political correspondent Michael Crick reports.
Normally, the organisers of any march squabble with the police over numbers. Today, though, both sides were strangely reluctant to produce a figure. Some sources said 30 or 35,000. Personally, I'd say a lot less, with a lot fewer on-duty uniform officers too than you'd normally get.
Expecting trouble? No. You're not going to kettle them then?
Ministers stayed well away, but not their Labour shadows.
You're jumping on the police bandwagon here, are you?
Well, the police are here protesting against the 20% cuts to policing and the 16,000 officers that are going. We voted against the 20% cuts in Parliament. We've repeatedly called on the government to change course, and that's why we're backing the police today.
A lot of people will say you're just whinging. You're well paid, you've got good pensions, you retire early.
No, I can understand that, but what do you say to an officer and an officer's family who's on 25,000 a year, who's having to take a 30% cut in their living standard in the next few years and possibly face the possibility of losing their job as well?
Plod, plod, plod. It was civvies only, no uniforms, and surely one of the quietest marches Westminster's ever seen. Little chanting.
Hats off past the cenotaph, please.
And doffing caps as they pass the cenotaph.
They're trying to dismantle the police service. This is what keeps this country safe, these people here, and me included. And I really worry for the future of this country if they don't treat these police officers fairly.
What's the march about for you?
It's about police cuts, about frontline people. People expect when they see a police officer responding to an incident, they expect that they're going to be able to deal with it. I'm not sure in the future that they will be.
Meanwhile, prison officers across Britain today mounted a surprise protest, limiting their work this morning for 6 hours against plans to increase their retirement age.
We have some of the most disturbed people in the country within these walls. Mental health problems, drug problems, just to name but a few. And we would not be able to do that job and look after these prisoners. Sometimes have to restrain them at 68 years of age. It just would not be possible.
Back in London, today's police march wasn't just against cuts, but the spread of what they call the privatisation, or ministers call the outsourcing, of non-front-line police work.
Increasing privatisation means less police officers on the street. Less police officers on the street means less skilled people able to deal with crime effectively.
Ministers strongly disagree with that, as the West Midlands and Surrey police forces have now put out a huge joint contract to tender, which other police forces could well join later as well.
Ministers' plans for outsourcing more police work could well run up against another Home Office policy, the election this autumn of the new police commissioners in each area, with powers over police budgets and strategy. In the West Midlands, for example, after last week's local elections, Labour is very likely to win the new police commissioner job. So the chief constable there, like chief constables in other places, could well find his outsourcing plans are vetoed. Michael Crick, Channel 4 News, Westminster.